Good afternoon, friends. This video is a continuation of our series about real estate expenses in Spain. Today we will give several specific examples of types of real estate and describe the amounts of expenses for each. You can watch the first videos on this topic by following the link below our video or by clicking the link you see on the screen. The first example is the most common type of real estate. This is a two-room apartment, an apartment with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, with a total area of about 55 square meters. And let's start with an expense item like electricity. Friends, you should keep in mind that in Spain, even if you don't live in the apartment for some time or you don't come at all during the year, the company will still charge you about 15 euros a month for electricity usage for being connected to the electricity supply. So the total amount for the year will be about 180 euros. The same applies to the water expense item. The calculation is about the same, 15 euros per month, which comes to 180 euros per year. If you come for vacations or live there permanently, you need to add the expenses you accumulate according to the meters. The next expense item is garbage removal. In Spain, this is usually charged twice a year, and overall, the annual amount will be about 60 euros in our region. And the main, largest distinguishing expense item is the cost of the comunidad, or the expenses for maintaining the common areas. It's very difficult to give a single figure here, but it mostly depends on whether your complex has a swimming pool, whether there is a courtyard, or perhaps it's just an entrance with an elevator, or maybe even without an elevator, and how far your property is located from the shoreline. Well, let's take a specific example, one that you can see on the screen. In the complex, we have a shared green area, a swimming pool, and elevators in the buildings. And the community fee for this type of property is 360 euros per year. Since there are a lot of residents in this community, when the cost is divided among everyone, it doesn't end up being that much per year. And the tax on this apartment is approximately 300 euros per year. So, in the end, we have electricity at 180 for water, 60 for garbage, 360 for the community fee, and a tax of 300 euros. As a result, the annual expenses amount to a little over 1,000 euros. That's about 90 euros if we divide it monthly, which isn't that expensive. The next type of property is an apartment or bungalow in a complex with swimming pools, heated pools, jacuzzis, saunas, sports, and gym facilities. Of course, these are very beautiful complexes, decorated, green, and well-maintained. Usually, the layouts of apartments in such complexes are more comfortable, about 80 square meters, and they typically have good, large terraces. Parking spaces are included with the apartment. Of course, probably each of us would like to live in such a wonderful complex. Let's move on to consider the expenses related to maintaining this type of property. Basically, the initial expense items are about the same. Electricity and water will cost you around 180 per year. If you come occasionally or live here permanently, you should budget about 50 to 100 euros per month, depending on how much electricity you use. And for water, you can add approximately 10 to 15 euros per month if you are living there. Garbage removal is the same. And now let's move on to the expense item, maintenance of such a complex. We are considering the same for an apartment with 2 bedrooms and 1 or 2 bathrooms. As I already mentioned, a parking space will be included, and the approximate monthly maintenance cost for this apartment will be 150 euros. Is that a lot or a little? Well, let's take a look. If you haven't visited even once in a year and still pay 150 euros a month, whether you were there or not, then probably that's a lot. But if you live there permanently, a family of 4, and you use the saunas, gyms, sports grounds, and throughout the year you use the heated pool, then it's probably not even expensive. You can save both time and money. The next mandatory expense item is property tax. For an apartment like this, it amounts to approximately 400 euros per year. So for this type of property, the minimum annual expenses come to just over 2,600 euros. If we recalculate that per month, it comes out to about 220 euros. Don't forget about utility meter expenses, which need to be added to this amount if you live there permanently. Let's move on to the next type of property. These are semi-detached or detached houses. The average house in our region is not very large, quite comfortable, functional, with a total area of about 100 square meters. The layout usually includes 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and of course a kitchen with a living room. Often, such houses have their own swimming pool and a small private plot. As for expenses for electricity, water, and garbage removal, it's the same as for apartments. But here you can save money, for example, by installing a solar panel on the roof to heat water. That will already be more economical in terms of electricity. Usually, houses don't have common areas, so there are no expenses like community fees. We avoid this category of expenses, but there are also small communities and the fee can be about 150 euros per year. And then there is a mandatory expense for property. Again, it depends on the plot of land and how far or close it is to the sea. But let's take an average figure. The property tax for an average house like this will be about 450 euros per year. Overall, the expenses for the house are the most economical. They will amount to about 1,000 euros per year. Of course, you should understand that you'll have to take care of the grounds and the pool yourself, or hire a personal gardener. I hope we've managed to give you a complete picture of the expenses for different types of real estate in our region. If you still have any questions, please feel free to ask them in any way that's convenient for you, in the comments, by phone, or through social media. Thank you very much for your attention. This was Evgenia from Adel Property. Greetings to you from sunny Spain.